Okay, hi class. So I got a little tutorial here. I'm going to go over Illustrator for you. Please do not use Words or PowerPoint to do your online JPEG here for your newspaper, your mockup. Please stay with either Illustrator or Photoshop. Actually, Illustrator is much easier to use than Photoshop. So choose an online newspaper, probably your local newspaper, a school newspaper like a high school or a church. Please do not choose a large newspaper. You'll have a very difficult time working on it. Don't choose CNN or anything like that, because those are already well established newspapers. You want to choose a newspaper that needs to have some work done. So if you choose, most of the local newspapers are not really done that well. So it's probably a better just to stay with a local newspaper, or you can, like I said, you can do your local high school, or I've had students do the church online newspaper. Make sure it is an online newspaper though, not a website. So you probably want to keep it. If you take a look at this, this is a project that was done by a previous student. It's pretty much double the screen size. So keep it around 20 by 14. Okay. Um, I suggest that you create a bunch of little thumbnails first before you actually do your mock-up. It's very difficult just to go to the computer and start designing. So go ahead and just draw out some ideas before you go to the computer, how you really want to lay this out. Think about this first. You have some time before this is due. So take your time doing this. You want to set up your grid before you start getting, working on it. And I'll show you how to do that. So let's go ahead, and the first thing you obviously need to do is you need to download Illustrator. And while you're at it, you probably want to do download Photoshop too, because you're going to use Photoshop for your images. You don't need to do that right now, but if you want to go ahead and do both at the same time, it'll probably be easier to do that. So you're going to make your file. So if you once you open up Illustrator, you first want to make sure that you have all the necessary tools available to use. If you open up Windows, you want to make sure that you have your application frame open up, your control open up, which is this section up on the top. Okay, this is your control bar right up here. You want to make sure you have your tools that usually opens up by default. So this is tools are right here. You can set this any way you want. You can set it the long way you want, or you can set it this way. I kind of like it this way. So whatever you decide, it's your choice. Okay. And you're also going to want to make sure that you have your layers opened up, your layers palette, which is right here. And you want to make sure you have your colors opened up. And you also want to make sure that you have your text open up. So if you go down to where it says type and character, and that will open up your character palette where you can choose all your fonts and everything. So whatever you're working on in your file will also show up in your panel up here. Okay. So again, you want to make sure that you have your application and your control panel open up. This is the control panel up here. So once you have everything all open up, you can just take a look at Illustrator and kind of check all the different tools and different things that are in the program. If you go up to where it says Preferences, General, you can set all your different preferences up if you want. Just check Performance. If you open it up, it'll show you how many undos you have. You just kind of go through and you can decide what you want to do, how you want to set things up. Okay, so I pretty much have this the way I want. So the first thing I want to show you do before you even start, once you get your file, you're going to go File, New. File, New. And you're going to set this up to 14 by 20 inches. Make sure it says inches and not pixels, and hit Create. Okay. And you notice that it's nested, automatic nested. I can pull it apart. Okay. So once you get that all done, you want to start looking. You're looking at your thumbnails and decide how you're going to lay this out. Very simple and easy to use. You're going to basically use shapes, and you're going to bring in images, and you're going to use text. There really isn't that much that's too difficult about this. Say that if I want to make my banner, so I can just go over here into my tools and select the rectangle tool. If I hold it down, it'll open up and you can see there's other things inside there. I'm just going to select the rectangle tool. Now to choose a color, you just go over to this palette. You can select right down here. This is the fill. This is the stroke, one on the outside. It says when it has a line going through it, that means there's nothing in it. If I double click it, it'll open up the color palette. And I can choose a color that I want. Any color. You know, it depends upon your project. But because I'm working with a file that I already have, I'm going to select the eyedropper tool and choose this color up here. And you notice that it automatically fills, it automatically checks what's in this section right here, and it fills it in here for me and the rectangle. Now to make this little search bar that the student did, you're going to go back to the rectangle tool, hold it down, and you're going to choose the rounded rectangle tool. Once you choose that, if you look up on the top in your palette up here, you'll notice that you can make it opaque if you want, but you're not going to do that. If you go over here, it'll show you you can actually change the size and the shape and everything. You can play around with this. You can change how you want the let me just show you this. See, it opens up here, shows you the width and size. You can hit cancel. Actually, I accidentally made one of these. I want to open it up. You can change the size of the rounded edges. You can do whatever you want to on this. You just go up to this palette and work on that. Now I'm going to change the color again. So like I said, you can select right in here to fill, or you can just go right over here and choose a color, and it'll automatically fill, and you'll see that it changed over here. I'm just going to select the eyedropper, and I'm going to select this color that the student had chose. And it's so easy to work in this program. It's so much harder to do this in Photoshop. I really advise you not to try to do it in Words or anything else because it's very hard to use those programs. If I hold the Shift key down and just kind of hover over my little file here and hold the Shift key down, I can keep it the same size. I can make it smaller or larger or whatever I want. And it's very easy to move. You just select the Select tool and you can move it around to wherever you want it. So very simple and easy to do. Very easy program to work with. Now the same thing, you'll make the same thing, you know, like you did the same thing for the sign up and the login. Like I said, your newspaper is going to be different. I'm just showing you how to use the tools and all the, you know, bringing images and stuff like that and how to lay this out a little bit. So, but you're going to do this uniquely different because your project is different. Now, before I even get started here, I want to make sure that I have my margins. So if you don't see this rulers over here on the side, go up to View, select View, and where it says Rulers, go all the way down. You can I'm going to hide it so that I can show you how you open it up. Just go View, Rulers, and Show Rulers. And once you show your rulers, you can just kind of go over and, you know, make your margin, which I already did. Okay. And the same thing over here. You just have to grab your guide and just bring it over and drop it where you want it and make your margin. Now you want to, this particular file has 3 columns. So I'm going to just bring one over here because I want to make sure that, you know, I have some space. You know, you're going to do this a little more accurate when you start getting into working in Dreamweaver, but just for this, approximate is fine for your mock-up. It's not going to be perfect. It's just a mock-up, and it's just give an idea of how you're going to lay this out. All right, so now I have my 3 columns, and I have a little space in between the columns so that the images and everything are not sitting on top of each other. I'm going to get rid of this. Just if you select it and hit delete, you can just get rid of it, select it, and hit delete. Very easy program to use. It interfaces very nicely. It's much easier to use this program than, like I said, trying to do this in Words is going to drive you crazy. Trying to do this in PowerPoint and doing it in Photoshop is very hard. Okay, so you have to make your logo up here. Though he made a nice logo at the top here. He decided he wanted to put the date and everything and little icons over here. He actually has images for everything. Now to make your navigational bar, you can just go back over to the rectangle tool. You can make it any way you want. You hold the shift key down. It actually make it first. The shift key and hold down the edges will make, you can resize it like I showed you before. You don't want to make them too small. And I'm just going to show you how you can make these. Let's see. So I want to make, let's say I want to make 5 of these or 6 or 7 of these or whatever I'm going to do. Let me just make this a little bit small. Make it a little size, just a little differently. Okay. So all I can do is just select it and hold the Option key down and just drag. And it just brought the file up closer so that I can see it. The program is trying to help me. I'm just going to bring this down. Okay. So now I can also drag a guide to make sure that I got these all correct so that they're all lined together. Make use of your guides. It will help you as you're working with your program. Now if I want to make more, I can select these two. I can highlight these two. Hold down the Option key and I can make more. Oops. There you go. Okay, so now I have to separate them a little bit. It's very sensitive, this program. It takes a little time to get used to using it. Okay, so you can make all your navigation that way. I mean, everything that you do in this program is, you have to just kind of get used to it and play around with it and just try to get a feel for how everything is in this program. All right, for some reason, I don't know what I did here. I don't know why I did this. Just kind of threw my whole file off. Let's just bring it back over. Okay, there we go. I'm going to actually lock this. So I can just select lock selection so it doesn't keep moving on me. Now this selection will now not move while I'm working on my file. Okay, so I'm going to move these. And it seems like what's happening is if I select the guides, they'll move too. So you have to be really careful with that. You can lock your guides. That's probably the best way to do it, is once you get your guides where you want them, you might want to just lock them. You can go ahead and select Lock Guides. You go up to Windows, and where it says Guides, you select Lock Guides. That way they won't keep moving as you're working on your project. All right, so I'm going to get rid of these. Now, before I get rid of these, I'm going to show you, you can just put your text right on top of it. Very easy. Because I have a dark color here, I'm going to obviously want to use white for my text. Now to select your text, you just go up and select the text tool right here, the type tool. Now it automatically puts text in. You have to have real text for this whole file. All right, now I can't see it because it's too dark, so I'm going to select it. I'm going to make this white. And I'm going to make this font larger. It's just too small. And I could use the little arrows on my computer to move the font. I want to get it centered. So you can check the center by selecting this box and just drawing a line to the center. And you can just alt center your text. Now you want to make sure that you use the same size font for all your text. You can actually just copy and paste this too. You can just hold down the first. You can lock this so it doesn't move. The lock selection that you have selected. Then hold down the Option key and you can make copies of this. Sometimes it's just, I don't know why this program keeps doing this, but it keeps making my file smaller. There we go. Okay. So what you have to actually do is you have to click it and then hold the Option key down and wait until you see the arrow change. When you see the arrow change, the little black and white arrow, then you can make your and you can make your double. Okay, then just change the names. Make sure they're all centered. Okay, so let me just bring this back down again. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all those. And that one I've locked, so now I have to go back and unlock all. Be careful because it just got rid of everything. I lock this one again. Very sensitive, this program. Kind of sometimes I wonder if they, they make these programs a little bit too sensitive. It never used to be this sensitive. Okay, so enough of that. So I'm just going to bring in some images. So I'm going to File, Open. I already have a nice folder here with all my images in it. So the first image I'm going to just bring up is going to bring this top image here. I'm going to hit Open. That's going to open up another file, so you're going to have to just separate it and just drag it out. Okay, now it's a little big, so I have to make it a little smaller. Again, I'm just going to hold the Shift key down, keep it constant, make it a little smaller until I get it the way I want it. Okay, I kind of like that. Now I'm going to bring out some other images. I have some other images that I want to put in here. So I'm going to go to open some more. I'm going to open up this image. I already have all these images sized. I'm just going to kind of place them. It's going to be a heading here too. I'll make this a little smaller too. Okay, and I'm going to put a little guide in there as well, so that I can kind of figure out where my headings and stuff are going to be. Now I have some more images that I'm going to put in. going to close these up because I don't need them anymore. I'm just putting them in right now. I haven't really aligned them yet. You know, it's going to take a little work to do this. It's going to take you a little time to do this. 2 more to go. Actually, I can open it 2 at the same time. Close that up. One more image. Now remember, these images, you have to, find your own images, and they gave you some sites that you can use to find different images to place in. Okay. I got all my images in. Now I'm going to put in my text. I already have some text ready to go in. Get rid of this. So I'm open up a Word document. Let me get rid of this too. That I have here. So I have my text all ready to go. That's the wrong one. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the folder and open it up. Okay, so I don't really actually want to open it up in that program. I'm going to keep it in Words. Okay. All right, so I have it all set here. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give this, before I even start, is I'm going to give this a major heading. So we're going to call this this week's top story. Okay. Now I like to make sure that everything is along my grid here. Okay. Now I'm going to choose a font. I'd like to choose a serif font for my headings and keep the sans serif font for the body copy. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a font that I like to use for my heading. I'm very fussy. I drive myself crazy when it comes to fonts. I like to choose a font that has a semi-bold. I'll just choose this font. Let's see if it has a bold. Okay, it does. Now I'm going to make it a little bigger because it needs to be a little bigger. You can just select right here inside the character palette. Very easy to work with your font. Just this little arrow. Let's make it a little bigger because this is the major heading. Maybe keep it about that. Okay. So you have a nice little line here. You see that he has a little decorative line. That's very easy to make too. If you just go over to the line segment, select this, the line segment here. And you can just hold it down and just create a line. Make sure that it's, you want to probably put a guide there to make sure that you have it straight all the way across. And then if you go up to the top here, you'll see that you can put a color in, make it black, and I can increase the size, the stroke on it right here. Just so I'm just making it so you can see it. Okay. If you want to put a decorative line, I'm going to get rid of that. All right, so now I need another heading. Let me just open up this. So I already have this ready here. Kind of like this font. What is this font? This is. That's all right. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to bring it over here. Select the text tool. And I'm going to paste it. All right. And this font should be the same font as this one. So what font did I choose here? The Baldini 72. So this will have to be the same. Okay. And I'm going to make this a little smaller because this is your secondary headings. It's not going to be as big as the primary heading. Okay, so now we have to align everything. I'm going to align my images here. I'm going to use put this down here so that it goes right with the image. Along my grid. All right, so we want it to look nice. Actually, it looks like they have it right here. So I'm going to move this over. Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to put my text in. And I have that all ready too. So I'm just going to copy and paste. Now, I might want to make a text box for this. If I hold down the text tool, I can make a text box. I'll bring it right down to there. Now I'm going to make this a sans serif font because sans serif fonts are a lot easier to read than when they're small in the body copy. Let me just bring this all the way down first. That's the whole thing. We'll just kind of play with this for a minute until I get the size that I want. Let's try 12. And I'm going to choose a sans serif font. It gives a little contrast. I have a serif font for the heading and the major heading, the minor heading, and a sans serif font for the body copy. So I'm going to choose a sans serif font. I could just use Madrid Pro. Now you don't want to put a bold on your body copy. So you would go ahead and just kind of do the same thing for all the rest of your file. Put in your text. Make sure you put in real text, real images. You want to make sure that everything is aligned. All your images, everything is all aligned. The more you do on your mock-up and the nicer your mock-up is, the better your project is going to be. It takes a little time to get this aligned. I think I still want to make these a little smaller. Make sure that I have the same amount of space in between these as I do over here. Make sure everything is aligned. There we go. Put our guide in, because you want to have the same space in between that you have here as over there. Okay, now I can go ahead and finish this whole project. I'm still not sure if I like that font. You can just kind of play around with your fonts until you find the font that you like. Let me just bring the character over. But let me see. Let me try. You can actually go through. You don't want to use a bold font. Find a nice sans serif font, something that's easy to read. I don't have all my fonts in this computer. I'm using my here. Let's just try Arial. See if that might be a little bit better. Okay. So you can kind of play around with this. I would do pretty much the same thing for this whole project to finish it up. But let's see what else to do here. I'll just show you maybe just do one more image here. I'll just do this one more text for you here. We'll do the next one. The next one is hunting for history in Peru. And we're going to just place it where you want it. Okay. Now it's automatically remembering the font that you used before. So I'm going to go back and use my Bodini that I did. I have to use the same size that I used here, which was 20. Everything has to be consistent. And I'm going to use bold again. I'm going to make sure everything aligned. If you want to draw a guide, bring your guide down. Make use of guides to get everything aligned. Okay, and then I'll bring my text in for this next one. Make a text box because you're going to be putting in a body copy. We're going to make this 12. Get it all down so we can make the whole thing. I'm going to make it real small first so that I can get the whole thing in there. All right, don't like that. Let me try it again. Sometimes if things just don't work right, it's just best just to get rid of it and do it over again. There, so now it's coming in the way I want it. I'm going to change the font, and I had chosen, you see how different it is, the size? This is the same size font. This is a size 12, but it's Bondini, and this is Arial regular, and this is also a 12. You can see the difference. You can see how it's much harder to read something like this online. It's very hard to read body copy that's done in a serif font online, because the letters are just very difficult to read. It's fine to read it for a large amount of text in your headings, and it offers a little contrast, but it's very difficult to read for a small amount of text online. So I'm going to change this to Arial again. Okay, so we're all set, and see, the color is a little different here. So, oh, I see, because it's bold. I just don't want bold. I just want regular. There you go. All right. So I have to make sure everything's consistent. See, there's colors, everything. Go through, check the whole file. When you get all finished, it's going to look like this. You know, he actually put a little design element down here, and so we're not going to do all that, okay? So go ahead and start working on this, and this is probably, like I said, probably the best program to use for this class. I wouldn't try to use anything else. If you have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to ask. I think once you start getting used to this program, you're going to really like it. You can play around with it and open up some of these swatches down here. You might want to just take a look at some of these different things. There's borders, frames, decorative, all different kinds of things. If you look at the symbols, you might find some symbols and things in there that you might like. Just kind of play around with it. I'll just open up one just to show you. This is some logo symbols. Let's just pull one out just so you can see what they look like. If you just grab it, you can just grab it and pull it out. Fun program to work with. But you notice that when you select it, you know, highlight over it, it's actually vector graphic. It's just some fun things in this program. You know, I'm not going to go through all this and show you how to do a vector graphic, but you know, if you select the pen tool, that's how you create vector graphics. But like I said, I'm not going to go through and do all that with you, because that's beyond this class. But there are some pretty fun things in here. There's other different things you can put up. Once you use vector, it's really tough to get out of it. You have to actually go over here and delete it. There we go. Okay, there's also some other things you might want to look at in the symbols. You know, just kind of play around with this if you want. Every time you open it up, it opens up another palette. You know, all you do is just grab it and drag it on. That's all. So again, if you have any questions or anything, you need some help with anything, or having some issues trying to get your program to work, or have some questions about creating your mock-up this week, let me know, okay?